when God said, let us make man in our image. Very important to put it in perspective that man, as referred to in Genesis 1:26, in Hebrew is the word ish. And that word ish means species or a kind. You must have, of course, we've all used the word mankind. That is actually what it means. Species, called man. So within that species, then God made a kind of like two models. Like you can have a car, a model Toyota, a make of a car Toyota. So Toyota, depending on functioning or the need of the buyer, you will go for different models of Toyota. You can go for Toyota Hilux. You can go for Toyota sedan, a Toyota Land Cruiser, Toyota something. So all those are models. So of this species, man, God then makes two models for functioning. He makes a male man, okay, and then he makes a female man. But both of them, okay,
Yes,
both of them are man. They are kinds of man. So when we are talking about man and masculinity, it is important for us to have the right perspective. Instead of using the word man, I would rather use the word male man, the male one, and masculinity, because that is when the comparison can be struck between the male and the muscular one. So
yes.
I will, yes, I'll say that. So in our discussion, either we will center on the male or the, or yes, we will center our discussion on the male man.
All right.
Instead of just man plainly, because from God's perspective, man is a kind, it's a species, it's not a gender. Gender is the male one. That is a version or a model of the make. And female is also another version or another model for functioning, for different functioning. So it makes two models of one make, two models of one kind, which is man. I hope that's clear. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it for sure. You have tried to even explain it even more than I thought. Thank you so much. Now, to you, Evangelian, when we talk of course, masculinity, of course, it has the opposite of femininity, something like that. And I think you know it better than I do because it flows at your side. Please, what does it mean to you? They do us the honors of explaining that to us, probably to some of us who don't even have nothing we know about it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you very much, Saul. For me, I think the word masculine is not an English word. It has its roots in Latin, and it means, I think it really has to do with the characteristics of the aspects, or the characteristics, aspects, or attributes of a man or a male. And by a man or a male, we are looking at the genetical makeup, the biological and the scientific makeup of a man, the male gender. So I think that is what masculinity has to do. In a nutshell, that's how I would look at it. And also, I know that it has to, men generally have muscles. So there's an aspect, yes, our brother Nyeko talked about how men have muscles. Yes, there's that aspect as well, that they have muscles. And so, yeah, people who have muscles, they have more muscle than women. But in their build-up, their physical build-up and build-up. Thank you.
Thank you too. I want to thank you so much for that. Yes, friends, when we talk of course, masculinity and femininity, as they have been explained to us, you can see it clearly that it's talking about, when we talk about of masculinity, someone with muscles. I don't know these days, by the way, we have ladies with muscles. I don't know, we can also take them in that category. But Mr. Nyero explained it to us that for the Bible, God had, he created a species and he called it man, but the male man is the one we are talking about here. Now, with masculinity, it has a traditional thinkings. Traditionally, it has a characteristics which they believe. So we want to look at those characteristics, the traditional characteristics about this masculinity. Like someone was saying that what are the traditional ones? Like you want to take it, we want to first take it back to the 80 years. How did our grandparents understand this word, and what were those characteristics? I see Mr. Francis already unmuting, so please do the honors if you would like to talk more about that, Mr. Francis.
Sorry, because I'm driving, I just left my mic on unmuted. How did our ancestors perceive masculinity? I think different cultures, yes, different cultures perceive men differently. For us, the African, especially, I'm sure many of us have heard certain statements like, African men are like this, African men are like that. You know, there's a general perception of men in Africa to be the superior, you know, the bosses, if you like, the leader, if you want to use the word. General perception. Ancient of times, men are supposed to be leaders. They are supposed to be defenders. They are supposed to be the ones who fight for their family. They are supposed to be providers. They are supposed to be the ones that really provide the cover. I'm talking about purely African perspective. I haven't yet referred to the Bible. Yeah. So African men are supposed to be, it is looked at as that. And there are some downsides to the perspective of our ancestors regarding men. By virtue of a man being the provider, the strong one, the fighter, the defender, and all those, they also demanded a lot of respect, to the extent that in many of our cultures, our ancient ancestors looked at the other sex, the women, as the weaker ones and more like property to the strong, to the courageous men, and so on. And which is not a good thing. It's a downside outlook of downside perspective about men. So I think, yeah, I think for now I can leave it at that.
Yeah, sure. That's of course when you talked about the other part, when they were saying that African men don't do this, I had to remember something back in the days when they were saying that African men don't cry, and you were like, really? Shouldn't I have to? No, I have to cry, because something is hurting. Why shouldn't I cry? This thing is hurting me. I need to cry. And someone like, you're crying, even at school with our children, when they go to school and they're caning the whole class, and the boy cries, the girls can be like, what? Look at this man. This boy is crying and everyone is making fun of him. This. But I want to pose a question to you, Mr. Neil. Really? Does this still is this still that important that we really still have to take these things as important when it comes to this era, because things have changed? Because as if I think we should be allowed to cry maybe sometimes, I don't know. What's your say?
Yeah, like you said, our ancient fathers,
Mm,
ancestors, in the perspective of men are supposed to be strong and appear strong and all that,
mm,
a lot of men covered up emotions. Now, emotions are not a sign of weakness per se. Emotions are, uh, it's action or reaction of chemicals that God put in our bodies, and every human being is supposed to have it. You can choose to subdue them in the subduing of the emotions. So uh, our ancestry called that, a lot of them perceived it as being manly, as being strong, but that's not right. In that bottling up or subduing the emotions, you find in many ways some men have outbursts of wrath, and they become very dangerous. So for a man to cry, it is very fine. I tell my son it's okay to cry if you need to cry, because I also cry. I also cry a lot, by the way,
okay.
because as an intercessor and a father, there are situations in life that make me cry, and but of course I won't cry in front of everyone to see that I'm crying. I do really cry. The, that doesn't mean I'm weak. No,
Uh,
it doesn't mean I'm weak. Doesn't mean I've failed to solve the problem. No, but there is a
mm,
place where crying releases the emotion. It releases. Actually, it contributes to healing.
yeah.
So it is important for us to. I mean, when you read the Bible,
Mm,
God Himself cries. Jesus in Hebrews chapter 5 verses 7 on to 9, it
mm.
says, during His days on the earth, He offered up prayers with loud crying to the one who was able to save him. Yes, to the one who
Exactly.
was able to save him, and he was heard because he reverently feared God. So if Jesus cried loudly, moreover,
Mm.
I
None but
cannot be man enough not to cry. In fact,
yeah.
a real man cries. If there is any real man, Jesus was a man.
Mm.
And he called the title that he accepted people to call him with was Son of Man.
Yes.
So he really cried. And you read through scriptures, the great men of God cried. The man after God's own heart was really a crying person. David, you
Yeah, yeah,
know,
thank you so much. I
yeah,
thought it was really important because we are struggling out there, There's something, these emotions are onto your head and you feel like you should do it. But we are struggling. We are like, what will people say? How will they see me crying? Like, seriously. But Mama Jillian is saying that crying is good for men. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I don't know why she's saying it, but
I
because for when
agree.
yeah, it is well. It is well to cry, but it deserves another thought, a second thought before you do. Mama Julian, what do you have to say, about this? I don't know. Oh, I think if she's not on, I don't know. Yes, I will continue as we wait for her to come back. Uh, I was saying that, so even when we look at those characteristics of our our ancient parents, of course, used to take like someone, and I think it was really even hard for a man to wed a wife, to get a wife, a girl for marriage. It was really hard because if he lacked these characteristics, it was really hard for them. I don't know if these things are, I don't know what, Mr. Nyero, what now, what shows that someone is, I don't know, what shows today when we come to our day-to-day life, this era we are in today? What are those characteristics someone can see that, wow, this one has really exhibited the characteristics of masculinity?
Okay. What are the characteristics of being masculine or masculinity? Okay, need some thought, but from the very word of character, strength, physical strength, that is, and character and determination and resolute, being resolute. Those are attributes of being a man or masculinity, if you like. But there is also, I like looking at the downsides as well. I do believe you've heard the word macho.
Yeah.
Being macho people. You know, people who are like, you know, they are like manual systems. Everything is physical and you have to crank things and you can say that is a characteristic of being masculine. As a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ, I would not so much like to look at masculinity characteristic. I would like to look at characters that portray regeneration. I hope we understand that word, regeneration.
Yes, we do.
It means to generate is to create. To regenerate is to recreate. It means we have been recreated in Christ Jesus. We have been recreated. Actually, Paul uses that word. He says we have been recreated or regenerated in Christ Jesus to do good works, which were predestined for us. So what God expects of us is not masculinity or portrayal of the nature or the masculinity as you like, but a regenerate person. If my ancestry, for example, if my ancestry people were strong and resolute and determined, the man's word passes for truth and everyone follows. When I'm regenerate, I need to be able to understand that man has two versions, the male and the female. All of them are created in the image of God, because the Bible says he made man, he created them, male and female. So both have the image of God. So the woman has an aspect of God that a man may not have, and a man, or a male for that matter, has an aspect of God that a female does not have. So as a regenerate person, I have to learn to listen to the other one also and to learn from the other one. Okay, contrary to the masculinity perspective of our ancestry that looked at women as the weak ones, they have nothing else to say, they just take directives from us. No. A regenerate person, not masculinity, a regenerate person is supposed to consider both as part of the image of God.
Yes.
Now, for my case, a married person like me, I have my wife who I look at as a complementary me, only in another entity. Okay. Wow. She comes to give a side that I don't have. It doesn't matter what I do. I don't have, I can't have it. So she complements me. So she is me, but another entity. Wow. So that's my view. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you too. And I don't know if the dangerous substitute is now able to talk, because we had the last. Yes, it's wonderful. Okay, Mama, we've been trying to talk about these things. What are the characteristics of someone who is masculine? And I don't know to your side these days, because we were talking about back in the days, but we want to see these days now. What are those characteristics? If you can tell us something. Yes.
Thank you very much, my brother. And yes, and for me, I think, I don't know whether I'm the conservative kind, but I think a man is always a man and will be a man. The only difference is whether they are in the Lord or they're not in the Lord. So being a woman, some of the things, some of the characteristics that I look for, I think in men, and being a married woman and with men around me, one, I think that men are strong. They are stronger physically. And that is, I think the truth is that the way that the Lord has built women and men is a bit different. Men have more muscle, they have more stamina, and so they tend to have more physical strength. So I find men to be stronger. And so even in my home, you'll find that they're the ones who carry the tables. The ones who carry the tables, they're the ones who kill the rats.
You know,
they kill the rats, they kill the snakes. Yeah, I mean, my work is just to shout out there, and then they swing into action and do that. So I still think that men, these are some of the qualities. They're strong, they're stronger physically. That's ceteris paribus, assuming all factors constant. I also think that I find men to be more courageous. There's a way God has built us again differently. Men tend to be more courageous. The things that men can withstand, the things that men can face that women cannot. And that is why even when men cry, they cry less than women do. There was a time, I remember when there was an article that was done in the papers, and the people that were featured were top CEOs, MDs, and they were females. And one thing was common, of all their weaknesses, most of them, and, they said they often lack courage to do certain things. That is what most of them said, a majority of them. I don't have the stats on my fingers, but a majority of them said they do not have the courage to do certain things, and they often break down and cry in office. And some of them actually confessed and said they rely on their husbands to get some of the courage to do certain things. So I think there's a certain rare courage that men have that women do not have. That is why men by nature are more daring and more of go-getters. They're the ones who used to go and hunt, go to the danger. They're the ones who go to hunt. They're the ones who go to fight in war. They're the ones who are conscripted to go and fight, and not the women, because of the courage that most of them have. I also think that men are supposed to be visionary. They are visionary. Yes, the women are also visionary. But this is the topic about men and masculinity. Men are visionary. They are meant to be visionary people. When God handed the vision of the management of the earth, of having dominion over it to man, the instructions that God gave actually on the kind of relationship that man was to have with him in the Garden of Eden was given directly to the man. The masculine man, Adam, and not Eve. And so men are supposed to be visionary. They're supposed to see far ahead, envision the future, imagine the future, dream the future, and cause things to be even now, because they are looking ahead. I also think that men are animals that relate, the social animals. They engage in relationships, they build relationships with one another, with different communities, with members of the opposite sex. That's why they marry, and so forth. And another attribute of masculinity is that men should be honest. They are honest because they're in charge, they're in control, they have dominion, they're visionary, they're strong. So honesty is another key quality, I think, or attribute of men, of masculinity and males. Thank you.
Thank you too, Mama. We want to thank you so much. And when you talked about men being being strong and with muscles, I got shocked because these days we have ladies chasing these our brothers who don't have the muscles, and especially the church boys, for them, they are not that masculine, you know, they don't go to gym, so they don't have the muscles. You find that they are rejected, and you know, and I'm asking, I don't know, even the other thing of fighting, you know, there's when girls say, if you can't fight for me, then you can't have me. And I'm like, is it really supposed to be like that? You know, but I don't want to go into that because it will cause another big discussion. And I want to go straight to this question. How, you know, these are some of the questions, of course, I shared where, and the one is saying that, why are men failing in their responsibilities today? Why are men failing in their responsibility? I want to start with you, Mama, because I know you have the men around you. Why are they those failing, you know, in their responsibilities? Tell them to kill the right hand is scared and is like, you know, snack. Why? Yes, Mama.
Okay. I think there are a number of factors. I think there's been a shift. There's been a shift from okay, well, we are the African society is traditionally patriarchal, but there's been a shift, especially now that we find that more of the women are also working, they are contributing in the family, they're contributing to the economy. And so the dominant position of men in society has kind of been checked, has been tipped to the other side. So whereas traditionally, men were providers, they're the ones, you know, who were providers, they were hunters, they were protectors, they were offering the security, you know. That has changed a little bit because of the change, the shift in the responsibilities and in the role playing that is happening in our societies today. And so it looks like men are not playing their responsibilities because in some cases, rightly, women have displaced them. We have displaced men from their responsibilities, okay? Either for the good or for the bad. For the good, because like in a family, women are contributing, you know, and so they're able to bring something to the table. And so the men no longer have to go and hunt and fight so much. But sometimes it is mistaken to be failing in their responsibility because they are not playing it as predominantly as they used to. But I think that has also affected that has also affected the execution of male roles in society. But I also think there are also cases where there's poor grooming or poor role playing for the men. You will understand that you will appreciate that men are never groomed. They are just told to be men. They are just encouraged to be men. I know, whereas the girl child is usually groomed, but men are not told how to be men. And it is really hard, especially in the contemporary society, because, you know, when you're told to be men, to be a man in a society where you are not hunting, in a society where the exposure is different, then sometimes the men lose their balance and they're not able to know how to be a man. They're not able to know what their roles, the primary roles and responsibilities are. And so it is common to find in a home, you will find a man and a woman, but they're like two women in the house, or the woman is seemingly playing the role of a man. And also, I think affirmative action, the affirmative movement has also tilted this a bit because the women are empowered, you know, they can do what they used not to do before, they can do what men can do and much more. And so they kind of take on the roles that men have not been groomed or are shy to take on. And so men seem to be failing in that aspect. And so these are some of the reasons why. But I think also some of the excuses have been that the setting of the relationships, the ideal setting of the relationships has also changed, you know, whereby women were expected to behave or respond a certain way in order to elicit the full responsibilities and the full roles played by men. But now women are not behaving that way. And so that causes the men to take the back seat, you know. And
Yes.
yeah, and those and some more, many more that those are few I could think of.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, Mr. Nyeno, to you. This one goes to you. You know, just like Mama said that things have changed, and then we're having these men today who love three things. You know, they just want to be given things. These days we even hear men, by the way, they are right when they say, these days we hear men saying that they also need the Kameza money, which I don't know if Mama will allow that, but I think it is, we shall give it a discussion another time, but if men have reached to an extent of saying that we also need Kameza money, like they love free things, and to the extent these ones have been tempted even to join the LGBTQ. We have today, we have someone grown up but is joining into these things. How do we help these men? How can we help these men overcome challenge like those ones? The challenge, especially challenge of loving free things, loving Kameza money. You know, this. You know what's your view?
Interesting.
Okay.
It's my first time to hear about Kameza money.
Hey. They really do.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. I do appreciate my sister Gillian for highlighting some very important just a moment.
It's well.
Sorry, my earpiece had dropped. I was saying I appreciate my sister Gillian for highlighting some very important issues, particularly pertaining to the shift in role of men vis-a-vis women. And I would like to add voice to this right from the Garden of Eden. You know, God created man, and their fundamental responsibility of the male man, like I said earlier, fundamental responsibility. Number one, if you saw the pattern in which God created he made man, and then he created them, male and female. And then later on in chapter 2 of Genesis, verse 7, God made the male version of the man from the mud, from the dust of the earth, and breathed into him the breath of life. And man became a living soul. That is the male man. And then later on, in around the latter end of chapter 2, then he makes this male man to sleep, and then he makes Eve. Now, very important that it's very important for us to note that the pattern in which God created these two versions of the species, of the mankind species, spell out functionality, actually fundamental functionality. The male man is actually made from God himself. He breathed in him. So he has the breath of God. And by functioning, that male man, that's why I was talking about regenerate earlier on. That male man who is restored, a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ, his life has been renewed. Now the breath of God, which made him, is supposed to now enable him be restored to functioning, number one, as God intended, as a foundation, actually. You see, foundations are not visible. If you're beginning to build anything, whether it is a business idea or a structure or education, there are those foundational principles that you cannot overlook, okay, on which every other thing is built. So the male man is built with the capacity to carry the weight, first and foremost, of family, to bear the weight, to bear the responsibility of family.
Mm.
And that, you know, the word from the word ish, which is man, you have the male one, and then that male one becomes a father to somebody. He bears the seed of God that becomes, another human being sown somewhere. Now, that word father in Hebrew is Abba, which means source and sustenance. Source and sustenance. In other words, by functioning, every male man is supposed to be the foundation, is supposed to be the strength, is supposed to set the pattern for how a family is grown or is nurtured. And of course, as a family, so goes a nation, because that's the basic unit of any society. That mailman is supposed to be the source and the sustenance of family, the provision, the source of provision, the source of sustenance. Now, when that mailman fell, you notice, like my sister said, the instruction was given to Adam not to eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which was at the center of the garden. Eve was nowhere in the scene. She was not yet made.
Mm.
So until Eve was created, this male man, I suspect, made effort to teach Eve, to help Eve understand the instruction that God gave him and what they had to observe.
Mm.
But as it appears, he didn't do a very good work. So Eve succumbs to the temptation of the serpent. Now, that temptation was not just a temptation, it was a grand scheme that Satan had to overturn the pattern of God, to actually create the shift of bringing the woman over man. And listen, you may not believe this, but the entirety of feminist movements today, the whole effort of equality, women, men, and this and the other, all of that is very systemic effort to actually cause this shift, to the extent that the woman would eventually be over the man. The entirety of the world system today is created to support that. To support that. Now, the question of what can we do to help the men? It is a huge question, because you can see that all the monies, if you want to write a project, for example, or a grant, and you don't factor in the issues of women empowerment, girl child, it is least likely you will get money. But if you factor in those aspects, you will get money. Why? Because the world system, underneath of it, there is Satan himself, whose intention is to change the pattern, because he knows if the order is changed, society will be in chaos. Just like you gave, my sister gave the example of, top CEOs and so on. When they are confronted with challenges, they don't have the wiring, the natural wiring to shoulder, to absorb the shocks. They just cry, and a lot of them react emotionally. Thank God for those ones who have husbands. They fall back to their husbands and they cry. I have a wife. She's a leader at a school. Sometimes she comes back home crying and saying, now, do you know this and this and the other? There's this and this and the other is happening. And I have, by the way, she's listening to me. She's with me right now. and I have to listen to her. I have to give her a shoulder, because there are things she's not wired to absorb certain shocks. But a man is. Now, just imagine a situation like ours, Uganda. Okay? I'm just, this is real. This is real. You have the head of state, a man. You have the VP, a woman. You have the Speaker of Parliament, a woman. You have the Prime Minister, a woman. You have the, and so many of them there. I'm sure you watched some of the dramas around COVID, time, how really the fights were among the women,
Yeah.
and the whole committee and so on. You look and you see glaring challenges. There is a place where a woman cannot shoulder certain, pressures. They just explode. And you will not you will not see any they will not hide. Some of them were practically fighting in front of the president, trying to get his attention. It's this, and you're looking and you're thinking, this is disgraceful. It is disgraceful, but it is our making. We made it in the name of affirmative actions and all these things. Now, what affirmative action can we take concerning men? For us who are fathers, we have to be very intentional to nurture our sons. To start from home, because while the women are being, empowered and so on, the young men, the sons, are being left there. And at the end of the day, these empowered women are supposed to marry the unempowered men. And that's why more and more you're finding the statistics of single women growing. The so-called empowered single women, they are corporates and so on, but they are not married. Why? Because, quote unquote, there are no men of their class or of their thinking capacity. And that may be true. But look, it is a deliberate effort from the kingdom of darkness. On the surface, they will sell to us what is good and we see outside. But now you begin to see the chaos that an organization or a nation like ours gets into. You're yet to see more drama. And this is not, I'm not a dooms prophet. This is reality. You're yet to see more drama with the number of women in places of high level responsibility. You're yet to see more drama in our nation. And this is an intention from the kingdom of darkness to shift the roles, to give it to the weaker one, to the one who is not able to, absorb the shock, to think rationally, to, to judge, equitably, but the one who responds by emotion. This one hurt me, and carries the pain, the emotional thing to the workplace, and it becomes everyone's problem. So, so, so our effort should be on the young men. Our effort should be on the young men, on our sons, to intentionally nurture them to be real men. I've always told my wife, you cannot teach my son to be a man. Let me handle my son. Okay?
Wow. Yeah.
Let me teach my son to be a man. You handle your daughters. and sometimes we have one son and 3 daughters. Sometimes she thinks I'm so harsh on the son, and women and their sons, especially if it's only one. I appreciate you, my sister Gillian. You have all the men around you, but I have one son, and this, my wife with her son, I have to fight with her sometimes. But the truth is, a woman cannot teach a young man to be a man. They don't have what it takes. So men have got to step up, and this kind of group here is very helpful to have young men like you people gather together, and we discuss men issues. Exactly. Things that women cannot be able to resolve or to handle. Men, if it means getting a stick and whipping you, I'll get a stick and whip you as a man. A woman will not have the nerves to do it. I will do it, kick you and chase you out of the house and tell you, go and straighten up and come back to my house. So a man, we have to step to that level. Thank you.
Yes, thank you too. Time is not on our side, but I wanted, there is a part, there is something, maybe when you started, you mentioned about men being, that men should, God gave them a responsibility to teach. So in other words, it is our role as fathers, as men, to teach the boys. But I want us to think about in situations where this boy doesn't have a man in his life. Surely, when he doesn't have a man in his life, probably he grew up with a mother, and this mother had to turn into the father And by the way, they really do it very well when you look at, of course, when sometimes you consider that. Yes, just you've said that mothers and their sons, they can be each issue, but there are some mothers who are really fathers, actually. I don't know if Mama Reverend Gillian can throw more light about that, but how can you help such boys who do not have male figures in their life? But it is this mother who has to nurture him into becoming a man. And she can't maybe sometimes, but let's talk about it, yes. Mama.
Thank you very much. I think that mothers, to say that men mentor boys to be fathers and men does not negate the role that women play in the upbringing or the nurturing of their sons and of men. However, my brother has rightly said, honestly, even me, sometimes I feel like my husband is too harsh on the boys, but that is what they need. I think that is why God put the balance of a father and a mother with the different temperaments, the different emotional and physical makeup, so that you complement each other in the upbringing and in the raising of sons. So I think for a case where there's no father, I think that the beauty with Africa is that, with our African context, is that we have, we're still lucky enough to have, to an extent, the village community model of parenting. I think that what may work is getting father figures, people they can look up to, people they can learn things from, because there's some things a mother is not going to push a man to do. She doesn't know how to be a man. She knows how to be a woman, and she may know how to bring up a man up to a certain stage, but may not, because she may not know the true aspirations and dreams of men. And so in such a case where there are weaknesses or where there are voids, I think that having a father figure is helpful. And these father figures can be within the family, within the bigger family, the extended family. It may also be from the church setting. You can also get role models, like you can get role models from the online church of Uganda. But it is very important that mothers who do not have, whose sons do not have fathers, should at least find a male figure to kind of mentor and sharpen the boys in the aspects of masculinity that they may not be able to do. Otherwise, for me, by the way, I can tell sons, it's very easy for me to tell sons who are not brought up by fathers, who had no father figures in their lives, and compared to those who had father figures in their lives. So I think that is what can be done, but also a lot of education in the long term. We need a lot of education, a lot of awareness raising over the importance of men, of fathers in the lives of children, the roles that they play. And being a father, you can father without being a biological father. You can nurture, you can mentor, you can train other boys without being a biological father. So I think it's also important that the boys grow up knowing that they can know that they are going to be role models, they're going to be change agents for other young men who are growing up, and sharpen them and mentor them to be the men of purpose that God created them to be. Thank you.
Thank you too. And surely every man needs a male figure in his life to nurture. And I wanted to talk about another thing. Maybe I don't know to you, Francis. There is what we call toxic masculine. We shall end with that because time is not on our side. Toxic masculine. There is where it becomes too much, when it is really toxic. Please share to us, what are those? How can someone say now this is beyond someone being masculine? This is beyond. Yes. Just give us some ideas,
Okay, I hope I understand what you're saying. You're talking about toxic masculinity.
Yes, masculinity, yes, please.
Okay. Honestly, I've never heard that word, but the word toxic or toxin is poison. Poison, especially in the body or to the organs of the body. So if we look at masculinity, certain aspects of it being toxic, I could spiritually relate to the unregenerated macho man that I talked about earlier on. The one that considers himself all and in all. He doesn't cry. He's the sole decision maker. He doesn't consult. He doesn't need anyone. He doesn't depend on anyone. He's self-accomplished, and the toxin that then develops in such a person, and it's worse if the person is an elite or learned. The toxin that develops in the person is pride. Paul warned about pride, by the way, in 1 Corinthians chapter 5. I think it is verse 6, where he says, your boasting is not good. Other versions use the word glorying. Your glorying or your boasting is not good. Don't you know a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump? Don't you know a little leaven? Boastfulness and, having a high mind about oneself. I'm not talking about self-esteem. Esteem is different from high-mindedness. I think a man who is toxic is a high-minded man, is a proud man, is a man who is inflated with a sense of self-importance. He's like like a mandazi which is swollen with hot air. That is what yeast does, or yes, that is what yeast does to dough. It causes a swelling which is not substantial, which has no substance. So that to me is a toxic man or toxic masculinity. And a real man would be humble, just the way our source, our heavenly Father is. He is God. He doesn't need anything. He doesn't need the universe. He doesn't need you. He doesn't need me. And yet he humbles himself. Paul is the one who tells us that let this mind which was in Christ Jesus be in you also, who being in the very nature God, considered equality with God not anything he could lay hold on or grasp. That is Philippians chapter 2. Even if he was God, he did not cling on to his status and title and position as God and could not relinquish it. Rather, he relinquished it. He let go for our sake, for the sake of our redemption now. A true man, a regenerate man, can let go his status, his masculinity, his title, his credentials, his achievements, and all those things that make us feel so great and accomplished. He can let go.
Yes.
He can let go for a cause. And for me, the measure of a true man is humility.
Humility.
It doesn't matter what accomplishment that man has made. If I don't find humility, I have many question marks. That one cannot relate with God.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Nyero. Sure, with the toxic masculinity, we can really, I wanted even us to think about those harmful behaviors maybe men display or express. That like when they're hurting, when they are sometimes when they are, I don't know, they do it when like this thing of bullying at school, and it's a big boys with muscles who bully children. So that's what I want for our children to understand with their toxic masculinity. You don't have to scare someone. You don't have to learn those, even there are people who are also too tough at home, husbands who are too tough, because that is toxic. The husband is too tough, everything. By the way, there is even a saying here in is it a saying? I don't know, but there is an expression that when fathers come back home and maybe children have been watching TV and maybe everyone has been reluctant, then you must get something to do there quickly, such that he can see you doing something. You know, you have to get anything. I don't know if we can also take that as a toxic masculinity. Reverend Gillian, you will help me there. What do you say? Like those moments when the husband is coming back and you're seeing your kids going here and there and there and there, and you're like, what is going on at home? You know, to some of you a visit and you've been with these people in the sitting room and you're seeing them getting off the chairs and sitting underground, you know, because the father has come back. I don't know. Is it toxic masculinity, Reverend?
Thank you so much. I think it is, because toxic masculinity is anything that is it's counterproductive. It is poisonous, like Francis mentioned. It is poisonous. It is not beneficial. It does not build, it does not grow you. You know, because when a man, when a husband enters the house and everybody scampers for security or for safety, that means you're short of being a terrorist, you're more of a terrorist. That is not, that's counterproductive. That is poisonous. That is not good. It's not healthy for relationship, doesn't build relationships. And so I think that is one of the aspects of the toxic masculinity, you know, aggression, things like aggression, being too aggressive, being too harsh, you know, being too harsh, too crude, you know, on people, having a very strong ego, you know, and you want your ego to rub it on everybody else, you know, violence, having, you know, meting out violence on your wife, on the children. That is not, I think that is toxic. Same as things like, you know, engaging in sexual immorality, you know, going for homosexuality and any other perversions of sexuality. I think that is all using abusive language, you know, doing things that do not build. Because you are a man, you are standing on the fact that you have an ego, you are a man, and therefore you think you're superior, you know. You think you're superior to others, you have a position of influence, a position of authority above others. And so you use it to abuse others. You use your power to abuse others, to manipulate others, to control others. That is really toxic. And sadly, such things move beyond the home. And, you know, such people, such leaders are often doing the same things, even in the marketplace, you know, even in the church. And no wonder we have leaders that are running this country down, that are running nations down. Because when you're toxic in your private space, then you will definitely be toxic everywhere that you go. And then that will negatively impact or influence everybody else and destroy even the little good that has been done. And maybe burn bridges that have been built. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think it is, you really explained it very well. You know, those sayings, women which say that me, when I go back home, they have to feel my presence, that, you know, the man is home. And even some, you know, these people be aggressive to an extent that even their wives, they are also scared of them. You know, when he opens up the mouth, everyone is like, whoa, what is coming? And everyone is scared. You know, that is toxic. To my fellow men out there, when you reach that extent, that is not right. And friends, you can throw in more questions. I want to thank Mrs. Molindwa Jacqueline. She has a question for you. I don't know who will take it, but at least I'm going to read it out. And it says that, what can you do for a man who thinks that he's doing everything right, yet he's exasperating his children and he won't yield to any advice given to him to behave otherwise? You know, that is the question. I don't know if I got it clearly or I need to read it again. I don't know, it is Mr. Francis or Reverend Gillian.
Could you kindly read the question again, please?
Yes, the question says, what can what? Okay. What can you do for a man who thinks that he's doing everything right, yet he's exasperating his children and won't yield to any advice given to him to behave otherwise? That is a question.
Okay. I would like to assume two things concerning that man in question. Is that man your husband? In other words, the father of your children? Or is that man somebody outside that you heard about?
Okay.
Yes. So if that man is your husband and the father of your children, and your role as a wife, I think the question is from a lady. Is that so?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, your role as a lady, as a wife, is not to necessarily or visibly side with your children who are being exasperated. Your role as a wife is to talk privately with your husband, because sometimes he's just hot-headed. Perhaps there are other issues that that very situation is compounding. So the wife has got to be able to talk with the man and explain what is happening to the children. I will confess to you, I've been in such situation. My wife has done very well.
Wow, congratulations.
Yes, my wife has taken me aside and said, my husband, look, this is the situation. And sometimes I've reacted without really understanding the whole picture. And she takes me aside and said, look, this is the situation. This is what has happened. That's why this is like this. And I get to understand. And there are times I've apologized. I mean, we are not supermen. No, we are not supermen. That I have to apologize if my action, which I did out of ignorance, out of, I didn't have all the facts in place. So if that man is your husband, it is your responsibility. It is your, don't just side with the children and say, this man. No, you will be contributing in hurting yourself and the children. So that is why you are a suitable help. You are a help. Nobody else can help that man apart from you, the wife. Now, if that man is somebody outside, in other words, you heard, and usually, ladies, you usually hear this from your fellow ladies talking about their husband. Now, I discourage that. That amounts to gossip, and any woman who does not have the respect or discretion concerning matters of her family to that extent, I would not respect them. So if you heard it from outside, please counsel that woman and say, please, it is your duty to help your husband, not to exasperate your children. If it is a man who, I don't know, there can be many situations, but those are the two scenarios I would share my views on. If it is a person that you see, and he's a man, or either your brother or your whoever, he does the same kind of thing, does that kind of thing to the family, to the children, I mean, we have opportunity to reach out to them. We have opportunity to reach out to them on relational basis.
Yes, indeed.
On relational basis. I think I can stop there.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I loved that part. But Reverend, you had something to say, maybe.
Thank you very much. I seem to sense the frustration in that question on both parts, on both sides, both parties. But what I can submit is that that can be a symptom of pride at play, the egoistic tendencies in men, but also probably in the sister, that it could also be there. So what I would suggest is that, the Bible says God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble, exalts the humble. I suggest prayer. If you can pray for them. Any attempt to change a man is not useful. You cannot change a man. Only God can. And sometimes you are the one, sometimes the cases have found that you are the person, you the one who thinks the other one needs changing. Sometimes you're the one who needs to maybe make adjustments or to change in some aspects, because sometimes it is in the perspective you're looking at it, sometimes it is in the approach, sometimes it is in your contribution to that. So pray about it, pray about it, pray about it. God is able to change hearts of men. God is able to improve us and better us. It doesn't mean that person is bad. Submit them to the Lord, who is their creator, in prayer, but also be patient with them, patiently allow the Lord to do a work in them. And like Francis has said, usually in parenting, it's always good that both the husband and the wife toe the same line, especially before the children. The aspect of unity before the parents, before the children in parenting is very, very crucial. If children begin to see that parents are divided, that mommy is saying A and daddy is saying B, then they're going to take advantage of you, exploit you, and also disrespect you. But when we speak together as a couple, when we try, and unity, that is why they say we forge unity. It is not easy to be united. Unity is not easy, something easy that it is easy to work at, because we're different. We're different beings. We have different thoughts, different settings, different backgrounds, different personalities, but we forge it. When we forge unity, even in parenting, then our children are able to see a united couple, but also we can also pray about some of the things together, but also get better approaches together collectively to address whatever shortfalls there may be by either the father or by both of you. You may find that the father has shortfalls, but there's a contribution that you probably are making towards that shortfall, or there's a way that you are not supporting that would be critical for them to improve. I submit. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I want to appreciate you, Mr. Francis Nyero and Reverend Gillian. I want to appreciate so much for today. I don't know, maybe let me give you your last words to our listeners there who are listening to us, and to our friends who are on call. The last words, about this issue, this whole topic of masculinity concerning the men. Yes, I don't know who's ready to start. You can start from there. Oh, Mr. Francis is already off, but Reverend, what are your last words? Your last words. You can tell us.
Okay, thank you very much. My last words are that both males and females were created by God. They're his beautiful creation. And woman was created out of man's ribs. We have the equal number of ribs, although women's ribs are a bit smaller than those of men, but we are the same. And therefore, that goes without saying that we need to respect each other. In our relationships, we should relate in ways whereby we respect each other, where we reflect the glory of God in our lives, in our relationships. And therefore, and also for the men to realize that submission is unto the Lord as unto the woman. It does not do any wrong for men to submit to women, to say sorry, to respect them, to listen to them. Let us partner together as co-laborers, because together man and woman are supposed to, we're put in dominion of the earth, and they're supposed to fill the earth, multiply it, and subdue it. It takes a team effort. It takes unity. This cannot happen when egoistic tendencies and toxic masculinity comes in. Above all, let us all submit ourselves under the power of the blood of Jesus. He died for us, and when Jesus died for us on the cross, he broke every division, every separation. And that is why there is neither male nor female anymore. Before God, we are the same. We are equal. We are all special. And therefore, if God esteems both and respects both males and females, it goes without saying that even in our relationships with each other, we should do the same to the glory and honor of God. Let us also endeavor to bring up our sons to, let us not ignore, even in parenting, let's not ignore certain gender in preference for the others. Let us empower our sons. Let us mentor them as much as we do the girls. Because this nation, this world needs fathers. You cannot, there's an imbalance when you have empowered women and disempowered men who are not able to father the nation. Let us empower our fathers. We all have a role to play, whether you're female or you're male. We all have a contribution to play in this regard. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
May God bless you too. And my brother Osborne, I think my brother Osborne is going to come and offer a word of thanks and appreciation. Osborne, please, you can unmute and thank our panelists, even though Mr. Francis is off, but I think he will still get the thanks. Yes, Osborne. Osborne, are you there? Okay, Osborne, I think he is unable to unmute. I think he probably might have left the gadget behind. But I want to thank you so much. Thank you, Reverend Gillian, the dangerous substance, just like you mentioned. Thank you for being, for loving us and for sharing all this knowledge with us. We want to thank, and we believe we have today, every man and every, in fact, lady on call has learned something. And we believe that even next time we shall continue to grow well as a men and the male men, just like Mr. Francis said. And friends, want to thank you so much for tuning on. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for choosing the Online Church of Uganda each and every time. And before of course, I shut up, I want to say that tomorrow we have the morning prayers. The morning prayers will be on, and the lunch hour will also still be on. And friends, when you get a post, of course, send it to someone, share it with your family. When you wake up to pray, call your family members to pray together. Another thing we were asking that next time, I don't know if you feel comfortable with it, but we ask of you, friends, that when you log on, please log on with your two names. Log on with your two names, because that's the only way we can fight. We wanted to put a waiting room such that we can stop the hackers from coming in. So we were suggesting that if our dear parishioners can help us and log in with their full names, rather than one name, or rather than these things of galaxy, this galaxy, But if we log on with our names and such that we can know that this one, such that we can allow you and we do not allow the hackers from disturbing us and disorganizing us. But all in all, we want to thank you so much. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for loving us. The t-shirts are still there. We continue to ask you to book your t-shirt. If you don't have an online t-shirt, please book one, and we shall provide them to you as early as possible. Yes, friends, you can unmute, and maybe before we unmute, I wanted to ask Hope, I think you on call. I can see you. If you can unmute, Hope, please come in and offer a word of thank you at least, because I know you have been behind this. Hope Abraham, are you there? Okay, he's also not there. Okay, friends, we can unmute and say hi to each other, and we call it an evening. Thank you so much.